Naga-Lokas or Naga-Lokas. The land of the Nagas is a vast region extending over the whole of Assam and northeastern Bengal, with some parts of Manipur and Kachar. The name Nagaland has been applied by the English to this district, and it is there that the principal events recorded in this narrative occurred. The region is divided into 7 distinct sections. These are: 1. The plain country between the rivers Chinwin and Mietta. 2. The mountainous country between the Mietta and Manipur rivers. 3. The hilly country south of the Manipur River. 4. The plain country of Kachar. 5. The mountainous country between the Manipur and Naga rivers. 6. Mountains of the Indo-Burmese frontier. 7. The plains between the Brahmaputra and the Ningthai rivers, which form the frontier of Manipur. The present state of Nagaland was formed by the coalescence of the Nodas and Angamis. In the first centuries after Christ, the Nodas occupied the whole of Assam, Manipur, and Kachar, while the Angamis occupied the plains of Upper Burma. The Naga tribes of Nagaland have given themselves the name of Angamis, and they have intermarried with the other tribes of Nagaland. The Angami Nogas are a race of warriors who are the bravest and most valiant of all the Naga tribes. They are said to be short in stature, but they are strong and active, and in character resemble the Manipuris rather than the Nagas proper. Their chief god is Sisamangala, a being resembling Buddha. The Angamis are not idolaters. The Angami Nagas, like all other Naga tribes, were conquered by the Manipuris and were brought under their rule about the beginning of the 17th century, but a portion of them rebelled and was subdued by King Tepchaimo, a descendant of an ancient line of Manipur kings, and placed under the rule of his brother Teplaimo. Teplaimo, after reigning for 30 years, died childless. He left a daughter who was married to the heir apparent to the Manipuri throne, a prince named Senlamo. After Senlamo's death in 1832, his son succeeded to the Manipuri throne under the title of Milamo, and his sister, Queen Mautla, remained Queen Dowager of Manipur. At this time, the Angamis were ruled by a chief called Makunga. After the death of Milamo, his son Chinglamo succeeded him, and Queen Mautla, who had remained Queen Dowager, retired to her kingdom of Manipur. A year later, Chinglamo was assassinated by his uncle, who then became king under the title of Saulamo. Mautla returned to her kingdom, leaving her son Sawatrine as viceroy of Manipur. He was shortly afterwards murdered by one of the nobles, who then proclaimed himself king. This was King Samdohir, who reigned in Manipur from 1834 to 1840. During his reign, he was much opposed by the Angamis. In consequence of his cruel conduct, they revolted and declared themselves independent, electing Manka, a young man of 24, as king. In 1842, King Monthala was elected king by the Angami Nagas, and he established himself at Kanangmi. In 1851, a quarrel arose between Monthala and his brother Motal, which led to the latter going over to the British. This was the beginning of an alliance between King Mothankal of Manipur and the British authorities, which brought about the annexation of Manipur in 1835. The Angami Nagas were now called upon to surrender their independence, but they refused, and the king, Monthala, died in 1853. In 1856, there was a serious rising in which the Nagas were worsted. The viceroy of Assam was then sent against them with a large force of native troops. After a prolonged campaign, the Angami Nagas were finally defeated, and their king fled into the jungles. The British government then sent Sir Andrew Fraser, a general in the service of the East India Company, with a force to Manipur and Kachar, where he succeeded in capturing the king of Kachar without difficulty. The Angamis rose against him when he advanced towards Kanangmi. He was again worsted at Tinkigang on the Burmese frontier on the 5th of November 1857. He then took a number of prisoners, who were sent to Kolkata to be sold as slaves. The Angamis had now become so thoroughly discontented with their rulers that they took advantage of a temporary eclipse of the moon on the 15th of March 1858 to declare themselves independent. Their new king was called Somi Kyunga, and was at this time 23 years old. He was of royal descent from both Naga and Manipuri lines, and had been educated in British schools at Manipur. He made friends with his conquerors, and promised to fight against any foreign power who should invade the kingdom. The next year, however, He had quarreled with the Manipurus, who had seized some territory in his kingdom, which he claimed as his own. In consequence, he was attacked by a Manipuri army, and after a stubborn resistance was forced to retire to the jungles, where he continued to wage war against his enemies. In 1861 he made another treaty with the British, ceding to them part of his territory in return for promise that he should be allowed to retain possession of it. This agreement was repudiated by the British in 1863, but the king contrived to hold his own and kept the peace for 5 years longer. At length he was assassinated by one of his nobles, who seized the throne and proclaimed himself king under the title of Naga-Loka. He was received with enthusiasm by the Angamis, but his reign lasted only for 3 years. He was succeeded by his son Mongsan, but before long he had also been murdered, and a certain Chingtham Phai was chosen to succeed him. He reigned for 12 years, but was at last defeated by his brother, who assumed the title of Lenshuich Kanti. After his defeat, he fled to British territory and obtained an amnesty by promising not to take up arms against them for 2 years. In 1875 he again attacked Naga-Loka, but was defeated at Yanmakeka. He then fled to Burma and enlisted the support of its ruler against Naga-Loka. In 1876 Naga-Loka was forced to retire into British territory, where he died shortly afterwards. After this, Naga-Loka's nephew, Thangol, became king, but he was deposed by his cousin Sao Lei-Fei, who assumed the title of Sao Kanti. He ruled wisely for 11 years, but he quarreled with the British authorities and lost most of his kingdom. In 1888 he was succeeded by his nephew Linseng, who reigned to 1890, when he was defeated and killed by a force under Major Wigan, who then assumed the title of Sao Kanti, which had been held by Naga-Loka before him. The next Sao Kanti was Thangol, whose mother was a Naga princess, but he was poisoned in his early youth. After this, Sao Kanti became king. He did all he could to restore peace, and when in 1897 a rebellion broke out among the Angamis under their king Uiseoba Wikaya, who had been expelled from Manipur, he promised his assistance to the Manipurus. In 1898 he received a number of refugees from Manipur into his kingdom, and gave him land for cultivation. In 1900 he signed a treaty with the British government at Naga Hills, by which he ceded part of his territory in return for promise that he should be allowed to keep possession of the rest of it. This agreement was repudiated by the British in 1907, but the king made no effort to enforce it and remained quietly in his capital until the outbreak of the present war. The Naga tribes are divided into 5 main families. The first family are the Angamis. They are said to be a branch of the Chav people and were called by the Burmese Tanka, or Hill people. The second family are the Ao. They are a branch of the Kukichin people. The third family are the Chav. They are a branch of the Kuki race and are called Kuki by their neighbors. The fourth family are the Tankol. They are a branch of the Kukichin people and are called by the Burmese Tanka, or Hill people. The fifth family are the Fae. They are a branch of the Chav people and are called Kuki by their neighbors. These 5 families are very distinct in appearance and character, but intermarriage is frequent between them, and they understand each other's language well enough to converse without difficulty.